Welcome to episode 2 of the Power Up podcast. I just want to take a quick minute just to thank anyone that sent a message or any feedback on episode 1. It seemed to have been taken really well and was really happy with any feedback that came back. So just thanks for listening. If you haven't listened to that one, make sure to go back and listen to it now. It was with Kieran O'Byrne and it was a really, really good episode. So you don't want to miss that. Hopefully you enjoy episode 2 now just as much. It's with Ryan Devlin, who is a performance coach with Sheffield Wednesday overseas. And we just basically take a deep dive into Ryan's journey so far, how he's got over to there and where he's hoping to go in the future. And then we also looked at what Ryan believes it takes to live a powered up life. So yeah, let's get into the episode. Grab a coffee and enjoy. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Power Up podcast. Today we're joined by Ryan Devlin. Ryan is a strength and conditioning coach or performance coach. Which would you like to be called?
So on my Instagram it's performance coach, but my job title for Sheffield Wednesday is lead sports scientist, just working with the 18s.
Happy days. Yeah, so he's over with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment overseas. Ryan has a pretty awesome story. I've heard bits of it before. So looking forward to you hearing it and delving a wee bit deeper into it. So welcome to the podcast, Ryan. It's obviously an honour to have you on. I've known Ryan for a while now. We actually went to the same school since Coleman's College, Newry, and we actually worked in the same bar a few years ago now. We were behind the bar with each other, the right side of the bar. Working away. So yeah, then we took different paths and hooked up with Ryan a few months ago again and heard his story and thought it was fascinating. So that's why I wanted to get him onto the podcast here. So Ryan, for anyone that doesn't know who you are and what makes you so special?
God, great question, mate. I'm still trying to figure out that one. So basically, yes. So name's Ryan Devlin. Obviously from County Down, live close to Ronan. Basically kind of my story, kind of my pathway. So I work within the sports science S&C industry. So I went to John Moores, Liverpool, and done a sports science degree. And then I finished with a master's in strength and conditioning for a year. And after that, towards the end of my master's placement, I done a stint with Ulster Rugby for about 6 weeks. Working with obviously the Ulster Rugby first team, which included some like international athletes as well. From then, I was kind of getting in that kind of grey area of what to do in terms of going into the industry, because if people who listen to this know that the industry is massively saturated and there's loads of graduates being pumped out year in, year out, and there's very little jobs within the industry. So I was fortunate to get an opportunity to work with Crewe Alexandra first team. They're currently in League One. And from there, I spent 14 months with them at the first team. And then I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to work with Sheffield Wednesday under 18s. And I have now been here for about 14 months. So kind of my main job role, just working with the 18s and sometimes dipping into the 23s. There's a lot of crossover between the two squads. So that's kind of my journey up to date and up to scratch.
Unreal, yeah. And what I'm going to do is obviously delve a wee bit deeper into that and a few questions around it and stuff. But how's things at the moment? How are you finding lockdown life? Has it affected you much? What are you up to?
Yeah, so basically we on the first lockdown we got put in furlough and I was home for about 4 months just back in Ireland, which was great because obviously over the past couple of years I haven't been able to spend much time at home since I've been in England. But since that, yes, we've been operating as normal because we are under the elite setting. So we've kind of been full-time ever since. Currently training off-site in a different facility just because of the kind of COVID restrictions, etc. But again, yeah, playing matches week in, week out, getting our training done. Big week coming up this week with Leicester and Youth Cup on a Friday night, which will be good. But other than that, yeah, it's been operating as normal now for about since July, the whole way through the season. So yeah, it's been good. Hasn't really affected me too much. Personally.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're one of the lucky ones that have got to operate as normal for the most of it. Like,
yeah, listen, there has been some restrictions with it, but all in all, it's been a decent enough program so far, and we're kind of trying to run things as smoothly as we can.
Yeah, happy days. So yeah, we're just gonna jump back a few years. So as I mentioned, Ryan and myself went to St. Coleman's College. So just looking back at St. Coleman's, was there always, obviously I know you play Gaelic football and stuff. Did you play soccer as well? And also, did you have like an interest in the gym at that stage or at that age?
So I've always played sport. I still do play sport. Still play Gaelic football, and I've always played Gaelic football. So I think that going through university or going through St. Coleman's College, I don't think the gym was much of a thing. There was kind of that. It was kind of that issue of people saying you can't train legs, it makes you bulky and all this kind of stuff, which
All
is
the usual
not
myths.
which is not true. Just
Yeah.
gonna put that out there. But after that, to be honest with you, the only thing I knew I was ever interested in was in sport. So then I chose to do the sport and exercise science degree. At the start of that, being realistic, I didn't really know what I was going to get into. I just thought I want to work with an elite team. I didn't know whether that would be through sports science, fitness coach, physiotherapy, whatever. All I knew is that I just like sport, essentially. So, and then I was a massive Liverpool fan, still am. So then I decided I'll go to Liverpool, play a bit of football, party a bit, and do a degree. So that was then on. So then I think it was probably second year of university, I really started to have an interest in the whole strength and conditioning side of things, and how things kind of work together within a kind of human body. So within that, there was in second year, there was a strength and conditioning internship, which is one through the university, which is really, really good. And I really, really enjoyed that. Also done that in third year. And then thankfully, as soon as I finished my degree, they opened up a new MSc in strength and conditioning in John Moores. So we were the first cohort. So it was the first MSc in strength and conditioning in John Moores. So we were the first cohort and went on to that. And then obviously that's kind of where my journey led from there. So we spent a year doing that full time and then into the kind of experience working world, essentially.
Yeah.
And
in terms of like your parents and stuff, were they happy enough for you to go down that route, or did you ever get the old talk like, oh no, you need to do something proper, business or accountancy?
Yeah, 100%. I think this, yes, definitely did. My parents were always like for me going to England, go out there, see new experiences and all that. That was no problem, but there always was the questions of, right, because it's people in sports science, people probably consider it kind of not, I wouldn't say a waffly degree, but there's not many jobs. It's not like your typical accountancy or your business studies where you can just walk into a job. Do you know what I mean? You have to really
straight path.
There's no straight path. You have to really, really get experience and have to put your neck out there and get experience. This is all about CV, because I think that the gap is that you can do a master's and a sports science degree, but it doesn't prepare you for what you do when you step into like a multidisciplinary environment, working with a coach, working with an analyst, working with a physio, working with the different aspects coming together. I'm dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. You don't learn that in an MSc. So I think it was, but I've had to work hard to prefer. Like when I was a crew, I worked part-time in a bar as well. So I've done that for a year. And then I was thankfully to land my first kind of full-time role within Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah. And did you find that you missed Gaelic then when you actually went over to Liverpool, or how was that?
Yeah, to be fair, I still do miss Gaelic back home. I think the standards back home were great. But I've always played it. I played for Liverpool John Moores the whole way through, and then I played for John Mitchell's for 2 years, and then now I'm currently in Yorkshire playing for St. Vincent Sheffield. So I'm up in the Yorkshire League now. So yeah, it's been a bit of a moving about in terms of the Gaelic scene. Yeah, I
was gonna say, has it been hard watching like Kilcoo doing so well and thinking like what if kind of thing? Like
I always get that question. It has been, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I don't think it's worth my career essentially for playing Gaelic football, do you know what I mean? But I'll still always play it, and then if it comes a chance where I come back, or maybe even if we go down to like London and play down there, or even back in the Northwest, I'll definitely take the opportunity wherever it is.
Yeah, and I want to think like when you're growing up, you think everything just has to revolve around playing football and playing sport, and then whenever sort of career, whenever you sort of get to that stage, you're like, what am I doing with my life here? It does have to take a back step,
100%. And I think the thing is, when you're over here, you're playing football, over here, you can get paid massive amounts for playing football or soccer over here, but in Ireland, it's still an amateur sport at the end of the day, as much as to try to kind of gloss it up, it is still an amateur sport. But I think the standards when they come to the strength and conditioning side, the standards are definitely going through the roof, physical development and athletic development are massively coming up now, especially within the GAA, which I do see. And then you look at your Dublins and teams like that, and they're just blitzing teams left, right, and centre because of the kind of physical state they're in.
Yeah, they've definitely been the example, like, and they're showing other teams like the importance of it, like, so anyone that didn't buy in before, like, is sort of
exactly they are especially that Dublin. I always take my hat off to Dublin because they're just complete athletes, like, and it's unreal what they're doing down there as well.
Yeah, and then moving on, so obviously you get the Masters and Crew Alexander comes calling.
Yeah, so I got, the way that worked out is one of the lecturers in John Murr's basically knew the head of performance at Crew Alexander, and he rang me when I was in Ireland and basically said there was an opportunity, and literally snapped his right arm off, and literally within a week it jumped on a plane and moved straight back to Liverpool then.
Yeah.
back to my old apartment. So that's kind of how that worked out. So it was literally, there was a grey area within 4 weeks where I was like, geez, what am I gonna do now? Like,
yeah. And then what was it like actually, like, going into like a professional setup and like actually getting in behind the scenes? Because I know, like, Crew Alexander, while they're still like further down the in the leagues, like that's still a professional club. There's supporters behind that club and stuff. And it's obviously a professional setup with the likes of yourself in there. So what was it like to go into like a real professional setup and actually have an impact in there?
Yeah, like crew was great for me. Like, I learned like a lot of my trade in crew, and I had to learn quickly, because I remember the first 2 or 3 days that I went in there, I was like, I want to do this and I want to do that, but I didn't know any of the players' names at all. I think that was definitely a massive kind of wake up call. So if any advice walking into a job with an S&C, I would say don't try and put your stamp on anything within the first 4 to 6 weeks. Literally just get to know people. Don't try and change anything. See how things operate. Get to know people. Be likable. But I think that was definitely a big kind of eye opener in terms of how things are run about. It's massively to do with communication between people. Like,
definitely. And then what led then really to the next jump in Sheffield Wednesday? How that sort of come about, and what was the thought process when leaving Crew even?
Yeah, so basically the job came up and I applied for it, and I was grateful to get an interview, and obviously done well in the interview and I got offered the position. I just thought it was the kind of right move for me, as it was a full-time position. It was kind of the full-time manager to my own squad, and I thought it was just ready for the step up. So, and obviously Sheffield Wednesday is a massive club as well, massive championship club. So yeah, I just thought it was the right decision for me, and was grateful to move up, and then just started working away.
And did you notice any difference, or like even difference in the level or the seriousness or anything like that? Even the culture of the club. I know it's different clubs have different cultures, and also what did you sort of notice was the big differences then moving?
I think I've got this question before, and I think that the main difference in them roles was definitely the different clientele that I was dealing with. So in the first team, you would have had pros who have played their whole career, and then you would have had your 20, 21-year-olds who were trying to break into the first team, but then going down and working with 16 to 18-year-olds. Just in terms of buy-in and a lot more educational focus, because they're coming into a gym and you need to really explain to them why they're doing it and how it's going to benefit them on the football pitch. And I think just different ways of communicating with the lads, like certain types of, like, for example, with my lads, like they listen to a certain type of music. So when I come in, I'll put on their certain type of music just to get a bit of buy-in into the program, etc. But I think it's just different communication channels and different communication skills on the deal with the lads, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
No one went to be tough, but then pull back and have a bit of banter. But then not. It's very thin line between being likable, getting that balance right is key, I think, at that age as well.
Yeah, and even at that age, like them even buying into what you're trying to teach them, and the trust behind that there is probably harder for younger people as well, because they just want to play football at that age. Whereas the older ones probably see the benefits and know the benefits of like doing stuff outside of training and stuff, even to up their game. Like,
exactly. I think like one of the questions I always tell people that the young lads say to me is like, why do we have to do gym? Because Messi probably doesn't do gym.
Yeah.
I'm just like, listen, if you can do what Messi does, mate, you don't have to.
That's fair enough. I'll stand back.
Don't worry about it. But I think, just about it's really about educating them. It's really like sitting down and educating them and having our chats about, right, I can help you develop your explosiveness. I can help you develop your speed. I can help you develop whatever you need to develop. But it definitely takes that kind of first chat buy-in. to really get them on board with what you're trying to do.
Definitely. And you'll find that the fact that you've worked with that age group as well will help you even when you go to the next step with the older ages and stuff. Because you'll have been through that period of like how to get people's buy-in, how to educate people and stuff, whereas others who just jump up and sort of go with the flow, won't have that experience. Like,
no, exactly. Like, and even over the past 6 months having to deal with lockdown, I've had to adapt my practice so much, which has definitely been a massive learning curve and a good learning curve. Like, we've had to do lots of stuff over Zoom, and I've had to provide them with home workouts, and there's been times where we had a 10-day lockdown because like a 10-day in-house lockdown because of COVID, and then we're coming off and we have a 2-game week. So how do you prepare for that when you can't really go outside and do any running because you're bound to the house? So listen, it's been definitely been a really, really good learning curve. And again, going back to your point, there's a lot of stuff which I'll take from this period into my next role or wherever kind of the journey takes me, definitely from an educational standpoint as well as kind of dealing with different situations.
Yeah, and I'd say that was even a big wake-up call. During the first lockdowns, I remember there was uncertainty, about when football actually resumes and stuff. So you're like, what sort of training do you do? Like, because you don't know if it does turn around and be like, yeah, you know what, we're starting back next week, or whether they're going to go through a whole pre-season again for teams and stuff. So I'd say that was difficult to sort of try and manage.
Yeah, it was, because it was literally, I'm sure the lads done about 16 weeks of just running around outside. So trying to keep them motivated for that was tough. Like, and then again, like in terms of like a periodization model and a plan, do you kind of prepare them for the sport, or do you kind of take about 6 weeks to build a bit of a base and then transition into a more kind of high-paced program, or where do you stand at? So that was quite difficult at the time. Yeah,
because you don't know any time period, so you can't.
Exactly.
You
so you
literally
can't
can't plan. Like,
yeah.
But I suppose everyone was in the same boat, and I sort of evened it out a wee bit. Like, so yeah, I'd say that'll stand by you going forward now. If there ever is periods of like don't know when sort of stuff's resuming or stuff stops randomly and stuff like that. There, hopefully it doesn't happen again. Obviously, like, but at least you're prepared now and stuff. And then I just want to go back to Ulster Rugby as well, because obviously that's like Ulster Rugby is massive. That's basically, you're nearly at the pinnacle there of rugby and stuff. So what was it like to go into that sort of facilities, even like state of the art facilities, like top coaches, and even being around top names in terms of rugby? What was that sort of experience like?
Yeah, that was my first real experience of elite environment, and I suppose I literally went from 0 to 100. Literally, really, because I was literally came back from the Masters in Ireland, then went to Ulster Rugby, and it was insane. Like, you had 868 physios, and you had performance coaches, you had speed coaches, the model that they had in place, the facilities was just unbelievable. Like, the standards and the just pure professionalism of everyone was crazy. Like, it wasn't what I was expecting. I didn't think it was expected to be like that. And they had stuff like, everything was just the way their systems flowed. Like, they would have done gym sessions, then they would have had their protein straight after with the creatine, and it was just it was an eye opener. And I think it was from then as well where I really thought, this is good.
That's where I want to be, like.
This is what I want the career to be like, definitely. But it was unreal, yeah.
You can even, I suppose, you can even learn stuff from other sports. Like, a lot of people might just like stick within their area, whereas now you have a bit of like understanding of behind GAA, then rugby, and now obviously soccer as well, and whatever you go on to further do. Is that something you want to do, stay within soccer, or is there other sports you want to delve into?
To be honest with you, I do love the team sport. Personally, listen, if an opportunity came around, I would say no, but I do love the team sport. I love the team kind of environment, and I love the everyone as a team trying to, with the same purpose, to win matches and get a hand table. So I would say for me, I've always said I want to stay within kind of team sport, whether that be in football, but I do love football as well, though.
Yeah,
it'd be one of my favorite sports to watch, even as well. Like, I'd say probably stick around for that. Yeah, definitely.
Happy days. And has there ever been a time where you have actually wanted to just pack it in and thought like I don't know if this is going to work, kind of thing? Like, I'm not sure. Like, am I making a mistake?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There has been times where I've been a bit down in the dumps, especially with like situations like financial situations and stuff. And it's like, right, is this ever going to work out? Do you know what I mean? Get a full-time position, and it's all about biding your time and waiting. But I think goes back to the same thing as like, I think if you really, really want something that bad, you just have to work for it and hold it out because it will happen. Like you can't be going and putting in all that effort to not get to the place you want to get to.
Yeah, and I suppose when you're so passionate about it, it makes it really
Yeah, that's what
easy
I'm
to
saying.
like,
Like if you're
or
truly
easier.
passionate, if you're truly passionate about something, I don't think you could. I just don't think I would have it in me to ever kind of deviate from that path. Do you know what I mean? If you're truly passionate about it, that is, you know.
Yeah, and it probably does the fact that that is tough to make it in the strength and conditioning industry probably is a good thing because it weeds out those who aren't fit for it kind of thing. Whereas the ones that like, as you say, like you were whenever you were with crew, like sitting doing a part-time job on the side and maybe working long hours and just doing what you got to do basically to actually like basically don't know how to put it across, but you're basically
Facilitate that, yeah.
yeah, like you're putting that stuff in to, like you're nearly putting that groundwork in that you have to put in, but you'll reap the rewards in the long term if you get me.
That's what I mean, and I think that. Well, listen, I don't know, but some people in the industry probably drop off after a while and just get fed up with it because it doesn't work out. But any advice I would give it, just say stick at it and try and get yourself out there as much and speak to people and connect with people and make connections, etc. But it is, listen, it is a tough industry to crack. I'm not gonna lie. Like you need to know people, you need to be knowledgeable, it needs to be nice.
Yeah,
Sound like,
big time. And just when
yeah.
you're saying about talking to people there as well, I know you were working with Coach Sportland. How has that been, or what have you learned from him, kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm still working with him at the minute, to be honest with you. Yeah. Yeah, it's been really, really good. Sam's definitely been a massive. I only recently started the Instagram page, I'd say about 8 months ago, 8 months ago now. And it was at the start of his mentorship program. So he has definitely been a massive kind of like a mentorship figure in this kind of progression of late. Definitely like some of the values he has in his mentorship. It's not just about like obviously really, really good strength, conditioning, speed, knowledge, but also we do a lot of personal development work on working on ourselves. If we work on ourselves, then we can our coaching's better, our processes are better, our systems better. So yeah, definitely. I'm still continuing to work with him. Like we have a call on my Friday night, so every 2 weeks. And anyone who's listened to this, I would highly recommend to get on his mentorship program.
We plugged there.
We plugged there. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that seems to be a recurrent theme from different people I've been talking to as well, is like if you can get yourself right, all the stuff around you will sort of fall into place as well, or will improve as well as you improve. Like so it will. But no, I suppose like how was it as well? Like not a lot of young lads or young people at all could sort of survive by themselves, if you get me. So like whenever you went over to crew, I'm sure, was there anyone come over with you, or were you just by yourself? Or
So when I first went to uni, I just went over my own. But I've always been like, I think it boils into personality. I've always been like that, like getting myself out there, quite a extrovert, you know what I mean? So I think it definitely boils down to personality. But yeah, again, with the crew thing, like if I hadn't got the crew opportunity, I was still for going back to England anyway. I had made the choice that there's a lot more opportunities in England, whether to work with semi-professional teams, there's rugby, there's football, there's whatever sports. So I was always going to come back over anyway. And it's literally, again, going back to the point about being passionate. Like I was like, this is the only thing I want to do. Like, so it has to be done. Like,
yeah, you're gonna make it work. Like,
yeah, literally gonna make it work, and that'll be it.
That's class. And then I suppose that shows like proper resilience and like patience is what like patience that people wouldn't have and commitment that people wouldn't have. So like fair play, that's unbelievable. Like it just shows how passionate you actually are. And then sort of moving towards the future then, what is the aim? What's the next steps? What's the vision?
Well, I think that because I've recently started my Instagram page as well, already performance, I think the vision for it is to just kind of build that up as much as I can. Listen, it's listen, with these things, slow processes, and it's just trying to add value where I can and just trying to help as many people as I can. Because there's a lot of kind of bad practice around there and people getting injured and pick up injuries. And I think that strength and conditioning is undervalued as well, about when we speak about stuff and have talks and stuff. Like it's definitely undervalued. And then in terms of a career progression, like I'm more than happy in my position at the minute. Like I love working with the lads. Sheffield Wednesday is great. But I suppose just seeing what opportunities come up, and if it's right for me, it's right for me. Like, you know, but ideally, listen, there's always the glitz and glance being ahead of performance in the Premier League team, isn't there? Like, there's no from that. Like, but listen, them jobs are very, very hard to come by, and they're hard to get, and it's a lot of patience with them. So then again, just trying, yeah, exactly, mate. Just trying to develop where I can, and just keep improving in the daily and the weekly.
Getting yourself out there as you have been, like. And then are you planning on, so for obviously for your own sort of performance, Instagram and stuff, are you planning on doing like working with people individually as well as having that sort of role within a team?
Yeah, I think that definitely for now, definitely with the so I do online programming, and I maintain that contact with my clients, etc. And then again, just adding value at the minute. It's no problem doing both at the same time, like.
Yeah, and you'll find that in the long term that'll do you well. Providing this value and stuff now, while you mightn't be getting much benefit out of it, you will start to see it build and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
of course, and I think
people's trust, and like people will actually start to see the value in it the more that strength and conditioning is growing, as we can see. Like,
exactly, man. I think that, like, especially with the Instagram and the kind of social media platform, it's basically like an online CV as well. So literally, if I go for a position and I've got an employer, they can just type my name and they can see all my stuff, and then it's a case of do they like you? They like you. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah, no, that's something that's something I've noticed with the strength and conditioning area. It's like, it's very much like what's your CV like kind of thing. Even like talking to a few guys, they were like, I don't think, like, they didn't have their masters and stuff, so that automatically put them, like, made it harder for them to actually get those opportunities, because someone literally just had a master's more than them, so they, like, their opportunities like widened way further, you know what I mean, just because literally of what it says on their CV, like, which is mad.
Yeah, literally, it's mad, because like you could have like coaches that probably don't have a master's, but they have had like 6, 7, 8 years experience, and they're phenomenal coaches. Like, it just doesn't mean, but I suppose it's the way it is. Like, you have to meet a certain criteria to get through to the next round of a job. Like, and probably the way they stack them, it's like you have people have your sports science, you have your degree, and then you have your master's, and then your PhD. And naturally, they're going to pick the people with PhDs for the first round, and then
I suppose they have to narrow them down somewhere.
Yeah, like, they have to, yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
So, and then in terms of Sheffield Wednesday now, how's it going with the under-18s, the seniors, the whole club? What's the whole club like at the moment? How are they progressing? How are things? Like, how's the season going?
Yeah, no, especially the 18s. The season is slow start to the season, but I think that definitely picked up a lot of form in the past 2 months. Like, the lads are definitely buying into the program, and listen, it's been tough for the 18s. It's been tough for them dealing with, it hasn't been their typical environment of coming into, they're not allowed to practice every day. They've been restricted on the gyms, but they've definitely been coping with it well. Like, and then the club is, listen, as a club as a whole, yeah, the club's great. Like, people are just working together. The academy works really well together. There's a lot of fluidity between 18s and 23s, and it's great. Yeah, it's going well.
And does the likes of the academies and stuff get much exposure to the senior team? Like, there would be much connection between the two of them?
Yeah, like there'd be times when some 18s or even some 23s would link up with the first team and train. But at the minute, it's quite separate because of the COVID kind of situation. So we're training in a different facility. But in a way, it's been good at the same time, because we're just focusing on ourselves and they're focusing on themselves. But sooner or later, like, we'll be down the training ground again soon, and everyone will link up and it'll be fine again. Like,
be fine.
You know?
And do you ever get like a buzz off, like, if you've worked with a certain player or anything, and they get called up and stuff like that there? Do you feel like a proud father or anything like that there?
Yeah, no, that's what it is. Like we always say, like, we're just trying to make as many as a team. Like, even our manager, like, especially Andy Sharp and Andy Holder, they're great. Like, we're just always trying to produce players. Like, we're literally trying to help these lads just get to the next level. Yeah. And they do become, like, one of our managers always talk, they do become like your family, essentially, because you're spending every single day with them, all with the same goals, to be professional footballers. So I think that there's a lot of planning and stuff goes into the background, how we're trying to make these lads as good as they can be, from a physical side by myself, from a coaching aspect, from an analyst aspect, and then with the physio as well. Like, so yeah, we're just everyone with the same goal is trying to just improve the players and get them to the next level.
Yeah, so yeah, I suppose you would become very invested in them, like, and like I'm sure in a few, like in 10 years or 10 years down the line, even if you see one of them in the Premier League, you'd be like, you'd be waving your hand, be like, I produced that.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a ticket more, like that's what I'll be saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, that listen, it is like you do. Like I've there's even some lads that I worked with the crew that I would still keep in contact, and they've gone on to do good things as well. So no, it is good. Like you do get a lot of you do get a good feeling when they progress well or they go into the team, they play up a level. Look, it is good. Like that's why we do the job. Like essentially, we're just trying to do the best for the lads.
Yeah, and then what's it like going to the likes of big grounds and stuff? You know what I mean? Like I don't think it would really sink in. You know, if you're bombing over to Anfield or something for like a youth cup game or something. What is those sort of situations like? Does it like do you be like amazed like still like by it?
Yeah, listen, because we play at an 18s level, so we typically play our games at the training grounds. But listen, there has been occasions where we've played challenge games and stuff at stadiums and been in stadiums and stuff. But listen, it is good. Like, but I think that's when I tell people that, like, I think people say, "Oh, that's class," but it just becomes part of the job.
The
Like
norm,
we're
like.
playing on Friday night now. We're playing Leicester, and we're going to their new training ground. And it'd be great to see that because all people are talking about it at the minute. But at the same time, I think it just becomes part of the job, like traveling around and home
Yeah.
games and away games, etc. But yeah, it's good. Like it's one of the perks of the job, like isn't it?
Yeah. And do you enjoy those like away days and stuff? Like what are they like compared to the
Yeah, no,
home games?
listen, the away days are good. Like the away days are good. Like we not when you get beat though, but listen, they're good. Like I think now, like next week or 2 weeks now from now, we play Ipswich away, and we'll go over and we'll stay over, and the night before, and yeah, it's just part of the job. Like good.
Yeah.
It's good.
And see, even outside of training, actually, is there much like communication or banter between all the guys and stuff? Like, would they be really close outside of training as well, or would it
Yeah.
literally be you come in, do your job, and go out again?
No, the lads, especially with the lads now, like staffing wise, like we're all really close staffing wise. Like, but I think it's a case of we probably do everyone's heads in so much in work that it's like I don't want to see you
Yeah.
like especially my
It's a
manager.
break.
Yeah, exactly. I need a break from you. But I think that within up the lads, like all the lads are really, really close. And I think that's what they're all they're just all lads trying to working towards the same goal. But they do. I know for a fact the lads that I work with hang about with each other loads over, like outside of work, like or outside of playing football, which is good.
Yeah, definitely is. And even then see when it comes to the likes of summer and stuff, when like the season's over and stuff, what way does it work for you then? Like do you still be like in office as such, like working away, or what do you get a break as well?
So we'll tend to get a break, but what will happen is though we'll get a bit of a break, but we will have like per off season. So for example, towards the end of the season, we'll probably get about 2 weeks off where you can go on holidays, you can go home. I'll probably come home for 2 weeks. But then we'll come back and it'll be kind of getting everything in place. And we'll do off season. So the boys probably come in 2 or 3 times a week to get their lifting in, build a big off season. And then once it's the start of the July, it's full throttle pre-season for 6 weeks. Whether that will be a week away somewhere at the start of it or training camp or whatever we're going to do, but then that'll all get organized by higher up than me. So yeah, it'll be good. Like, yeah, that's kind of
And
the way we
then
go.
yeah, so we are going to talk a wee bit about GAA specifically, but that's something I find crazy as well, is that big teams like that can literally do a preseason in 6 weeks, and then over here for a small club team, we're like doing 3 months of preseason and stuff, starting in like December, January, and the league's not starting to like April and
Yeah,
stuff. Like,
I think the difference in that is as well. I think that the thing is, that 6 weeks is full time.
yeah,
So I think it would probably make sense that it's spread out a wee bit more for the GA players, but like we'll come in and that is literally 5-6 days a week for 6 weeks, like, and that'll be all programmed. The boys wear all their GPS, that'll be tracked every single day. So I think, listen, it's a condensed period, but it's kind of one of them things really they have to do. Like,
yeah. And do you take much ownership for what the guys do outside of sort of training and stuff? Like would they have any sort of things that they would have to follow outside of training in terms of eating, in terms of structure? Like are they allowed to go out and stuff like that there, or what is it quite strict or?
Yeah, so from like a nutritional perspective, it's all I can do is educate the lads on what they need to eat and do, whether that's their hitting their protein intake, the carb intake, having more carbohydrates in certain days where their pitch load has been more, all that kind of stuff. All I can do is advise them on that. But as soon as they leave the gates, they can go do what they want, really. Like, they're not restricted in terms of what they can do and can't do, really, like, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not as bad as some people think it is. Like,
yeah, no, it's definitely not. No, it's not.
Happy days. So yeah, just moving on to the GA stuff then. I suppose let's start with gym work because I think it's quite neglected. And I know the gyms are closed at the minute, but this time of year, like in the off season and coming into preseason, what sort of stuff should GA players be focused on within the gym, whether it be when the gyms are open and at the minute when they're closed?
Okay, so I think that you kind of have to break it up into a couple of two or three ways to answer the question. So I think that now that the gyms aren't open, probably people are doing home workouts, etc., and all this kind of stuff. So if I had to give some advice to people, I'd say get out and run, do proper speed sessions, and I mean sprint maximally with loads of rest, because what tends to happen is that people won't sprint for like 2-3 months at a time. They'll be sedentary, they'll do 5Ks and 10Ks, they won't sprint, and then they'll come into the first week of training and they'll probably go into a game in the first couple of days of training, or they'll do some speed work and there's going to be hamstrings blown everywhere. Or maybe not then, but definitely there's going to be a build-up of workload and then people will just break down. So I think that's the first thing. So what they can do in terms of trying to prevent that with no gym, they could do the plyometric work in-house plyometric work, which is all your kind of more reactive based work, your pogos, your bounds, etc. They can do isometric work. So I've got isometric work on my Instagram page as well. I can do some of that, or you can just even Google isometric work. And then the other thing is what they could do is you're very limited if you don't have any equipment either as well. And the only thing you can do then is get out and do some high quality sprinting, but that's probably really it.
Is there a way to ease into the sprinting, or should you literally just go max effort, like from the first day you start sort of prepping towards it?
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. Like this topic would require a whole podcast
on its own. Yeah.
So the thing is, yeah, again, so if I was to give any advice for someone who's completely sedentary now for about 6 weeks, I would say literally over the next couple of weeks, you always base it, for me personally, I always base it off the speed. So the first couple of weeks, do some tempo work. Literally do some tempo work. So I mean 100 meters in 20 seconds, nice smooth run mechanics, and then take a rest and do maybe 3 sets of 6 at that. So 20 on, 40 off, 3 sets of 6 at that, right? Maybe do that 2 or 3 times a week, right? The next week, you can swap out one of them sessions and put in a more mass-based session. So it could be 15 on, 30 off. So the speed probably gets slightly higher and it gets a bit more intense. Towards in that week, you can maybe do a couple of sprints to hit around maybe 85% of your max. And then towards the next week, you can hit 90% and you can change the transition of the running, and then you're going to be able to hit. So what happens is people just plod along, they just go bang. And then they'll just, because you need to prepare your body for that volume. You need to build up the volume to be able to do the intense stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's where people get it wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then is that just flat sprinting or hill sprints, or do you even delve into hill sprints at all? Do you find them effective at all?
Yeah, I think definitely hills, but then it is another question, because hill sprinting is good for replicating acceleration mechanics, because you're forced into that forward lean position to push down and back to go up the hill. Do you know what I mean? So again, if you want to, if you're someone who wants to improve your acceleration with no gym equipment or nothing, I would say get on the hills. Again, max effort reps up over 20-30 meters up a hill, come down, rest those, and go again. But I think that again, it would be something good to put into the start of a program, because you're running uphill, you don't have to extend your leg further. Then when you don't extend your leg further, you're not hitting your hamstrings more. So it could be a good replacement to ease into your running.
Yeah, the start. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but then it depends what the whole structure looks like and where you are in the program and how many days you can get exposed. I think this is where the complexity of a program comes into play, you know?
Yeah. And whenever people are sort of adding in that sprint work and tempos and stuff, is that allowing them to build up a base as well in terms of aerobically?
Yeah. So the tempos will be mostly aerobic stuff, to be fair, yeah. And then in terms of if you're doing an aerobic session, you could do your tempo work, and then after that you could do, I don't know, 3 blocks of 4-minute runs with some type of fartlek training. So it would be maybe 50%, and then for maybe a set distance you go up to 75%, and then you ease off, something like that. Do you know what I mean? But I think that the one thing with people are obviously doing 5 and 10Ks, they're probably only doing about 20-30% of their max speed.
Yeah.
So it's not going to prep them for playing sport or playing Gaelic football, essentially.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because you see a lot of teams, even coaches within the teams, like prescribing that, because obviously just not educated enough on it. But they're like, yeah, go out, like start with 3Ks, build up to 5Ks, go to 10Ks and stuff, and they're like, they tell them like, oh, this, we're building the base and all, and then the first session back, there's like sprints and changes of
Well, I
direction.
think what people realize is you have to build the base on the opposite side if you're going to build any base, because the closer you get to competition, the volume has to drop and you have to get more specific to the actual event you're about to do. So, for example, if you take Gaelic football, what does it have? It has acceleration, it has like de-acceleration, it has jumps, it has landings, it has change of direction, it has high speed running, it has sprinting.
Yeah.
So if your plan doesn't involve any of that stuff, one of them factors could cause an injury if you're not training, essentially. So, for example, if you haven't practiced change of direction in 6 months and your first session back, you're doing a lot of doggies, you're doing like 1v1s and 2v2s, you could blow an ankle somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a high, because it's change of direction is high eccentric loads. So you have to absorb load and produce it really quickly. So if you're not strong eccentrically because you haven't trained it for so long, you're just going to end up injuring yourself. I think that's what people don't understand.
Yeah, big time. And I suppose moving on then towards closer to the season, what, or even when the season's going up and running, do you continue on that sort of speed training separately from, like, I know most clubs will train maybe Monday, Wednesday, game Friday.
Yeah.
Do you continue on sprint work outside of that and stuff?
So my answer would be no, because their speed training should be incorporated into their training sessions. So, for example, the way I do it, I know from my lads, like they come in on a Tuesday, we'll do a warm up, and then because you want to, first of all, there's no point training speed at the end of a session, because in order to improve speed and hit them high velocities and then high speed, you need to be fresh. So there's no point doing a massive session and at the end of the session saying, right, we'll do 4 40-meter sprints, because you're not going to hit them velocities because you're in a fatigue state.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that after the warm up, you go 70%, 80%, 90% runs, and then you could do, for example, 3 to 4 40-meter sprints, max out with loads of rest. You have to give them loads of rest between every rep, because there's no point going, right, 40-meter sprints, jog back, go again, because they're still going to be burnt out from that first rep. So I think that's what people, true speed training needs a load of rest in between every rep to hit them high velocities. And I think that they should be getting, by the time the in-season comes, it's all geared towards football. It's all about football. It's all about practicing the sport and get better at the sport, and tactics and tactical work. So I think that the running shouldn't, if you feel that you need to get a bit fitter, listen, there's no harm on going and doing a run or something on a Sunday. But then as long as it doesn't affect your training sessions, essentially for a team sport player, it's how you perform in training on a Wednesday and Thursday. It's going to put you in the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't ruin your chances by going to an extra runs the weekend. That's why it's so important that you build up your fitness level. So when you get into the season, that you just focus on football.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about trying to build up fitness and speed and all that there.
Exactly. You've already done the hard work. And I think I'll just touch on this one. I think in terms of the gym side of stuff as well. I've done a presentation last night, and one of the questions was, should you train speed or should you train legs in season? Yeah. And my answer is yes, you should, because what people don't understand is that relative strength. So basically what relative strength is the amount you can lift in ratio to your body. So for example, if you're 80 kg and you squat 80 kg for 1 rep, you can squat 1 times body weight. But if you weigh 80 kg and you can squat 160, you can squat 2 times body weight. So the kind of go-to metric that I have is I want my athletes to be able to squat 1.5 or in a major lift 1.5 to 2 times body weight. So that's been shown. If they have really good relative strength, they're less exposed to injury. Okay, so that's been shown in the research, and that's been well documented. So I think that what people don't realize is if your relative strength starts to drop in season because you're not going to the gym and you're not exposing yourself to that strength work, then you're leaving yourself open for injury. Because as soon as you can't replicate them forces that you do in your strength work, then as soon as that drops, you're liable to get injured. So I think that's not a case of, when I talk about strength work, I talk about anything over 85% of your max. So I think what people think is, oh, like, how can I go and do 5 5s during the week, like at 80% or 85% or whatever? But then I'll say that, but you can go into the gym and you can do 4 sets of 1 at 90%.
Yeah.
Like that's 4 reps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People have this thing that lifting heavy causes muscle soreness and DOMs. And then obviously they don't want to take that into their training. But what people don't understand is that muscle soreness and DOMs is caused by a more eccentric load. So if you do 5 sets of 5, that's 25 reps. But if you do at 70%, that's 25 reps. But if you do 4 sets of 2 at 85%, that's 8 reps.
Yeah, so a massive difference. Like
it's a massive difference there. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's what, in terms of this is how program and how complex programming comes in. So I mean, and why it's so important. That's what I feel.
Yeah, and people don't realize that. And you even see a lot of people will do the gym work in the off season and pre-season, and when the season starts, they tend to like just forget about it, kind of thing. Because they're like, that same thing where they're afraid of it affecting. They're sort of like afraid of doing legs and stuff in case they're tired for the training on the Wednesday. You know what I mean? And
exactly. But I think this is what, like, this is one thing I spoke about last night. I think that what people do is first of all, it depends on, so for example, I can speak in our case that we will have a training session on a Tuesday and I'll take the lad and do legs on a Tuesday. So if you're going to train their legs, just hit them all on one day. Do you know what I mean? Don't try and spread the load. Don't be going like training on a Thursday or training on a Tuesday, legs on a Wednesday, training on Thursday, legs on a Friday game side, because you're spreading out the workload throughout the week.
Your body doesn't even get a chance to recover. Like
your body doesn't get a chance to recover. So just do your running session, then go into the gym and lift.
Yeah,
I know that might sound to people, geez, that's mad, but trust me, it's not that mad.
I know that's what people would assume, like, oh, if I train now, how am I going to be fit to do a run after this and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So for example, any advice that I would give on the Tuesday session or Monday session or whatever way it works in terms of your weekly structure, go on a Monday, do your I presume a Monday will be more bigger session, open out spaces. You can do your sprinting on a Monday, for example. Go into the gym, do your 5 sets of 5. So do your more volume based session. Do your 5 sets of 5. Do your Nordics, do your RDLs, and your step ups, for example.
Yeah.
Right, and then towards the end of the week, when the game is, then so you'll be off. Just say you're off Tuesday, then on a Wednesday you'll do your session. That'll kind of be a match prep session, I presume, where everything will be tapered and it'll be a lot faster to prep for the game on the Wednesday. So your gym session on the Wednesday will be your power work. So go into your plyos, your loaded jumps, your squat jumps, 4 sets of 1, wee bit of groin work, whatever you want to do. There you go.
Yeah, so minimum effective dose again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, I'm in terms of the minimum effective dose, I think you need to provide a good enough dose that you're still going to get adaptation. But again, very much in season, it is about strength maintenance and maintenance of qualities. So I think that, as you looked at that structure, which I've just said about on the Monday, it's higher volume. Then towards the end of the week, it's higher intensity because you're lifting heavier and your
volume comes down.
And the volume comes down. So then, because the volumes went down, you're not carrying fatigue into the game. So you've got your Wednesday, you've got Thursday off, and then you're primed for the game.
Yeah,
so that's typically the structure I would look at if I was looking to get at footballers.
Yeah, happy days. No, that's perfect, and no excuses now for anyone listening. They know exactly what they should be doing, and a few myths bust there as well. Because there's plenty of them that goes about in terms of strength work for athletes, and particularly around GAA as well. Because it's just so behind, as we talked about before this recording as well. So then we're just going to finish off I finish off with these questions with everyone. Just a few quick fire questions. So number 1 would be, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think the best piece of advice, I was actually thinking about this before. I think the best piece of advice I've been given would probably be my 18s manager. Basically, he said, like, you can only control the controllables. So obviously we've been dealt with different situations, and in terms of ways getting in the gym, and you literally can only control what you can control, whether that be in your gym program or that be in life, essentially. So what I would just say is just focus on yourself and do what you can with the best of your ability or best of the resources you've got.
Yeah, that's a massive one. That's something I've been using with my clients the past while, is like, control what you can control, and like, don't worry about the stuff you can't control, because you can't change it. You know,
exactly.
What I mean?
You can't change it. So what's the point?
Yeah, you're wasting energy and time on it. Like, thinking about it, it's like these lockdowns. Like, I know they can be difficult, but like at the end of the day, like you have no say in it, so there's no point in worrying about it, because the more you shout about like how much you hate them and how pointless they are, that's still like the government don't care literally about your like a wee
No,
opinion, like, so just focus
exactly.
on.
And I think that, yeah, like there's always like people can cry about not having gyms and stuff, but in terms of the performance aspect or a weight loss aspect or whatever, people's different realms are, there's always something you can be doing, whether that be
Yeah,
mobility work, whether that be going out for a walk, whether it be sprinting, jumping. Like there's a good enough toolbox there to work with,
definitely, like there's a
or
lot
it's
of people.
or from a Gaelic perspective in terms of skills, like there's a wall and there's a ball.
Yeah, that's all you
There you
need.
go.
Like,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. Like it's that thing. Like I said to a few people as well. Like they're like, oh, I'm not gonna start losing weight and stuff to the gym's open, and I'm like, the government didn't take away your food. They didn't take away
Exactly.
your body weight stuff. They haven't taken away your running. Like, so like
Exactly.
why do you need the gym right now, kind of thing. And like that's another thing. People are like, yeah, like I need the gym, but like you ask them to do body weight press ups and they can't do them, kind of thing. Like, so it's like you have even better resources right there. And
Exactly.
you just like you're just afraid to use them. Like, just basically people using it as an excuse nearly.
I would say back to that. Do you even deserve to be in a gym if you can't do 10 press ups? Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah, yeah.
earn the, build a bit of
Yeah,
a
earn
base.
the yeah. Oh yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
You need to earn your place in there, like.
exactly.
And then question number 2 then, what motivates you? So why did you go through all that to get to where you are?
I think it's just pure passion for what I do. Like my sister always said to me that the only thing I care about is like reading about strength training and books and stuff and shit like this. She's like, there's nothing else to you than lifting.
Yeah,
She's like, I've never seen anyone who's more obsessed with weight plates and like
yeah,
a barbell. But I think it's just the pure passion of just what I have in the industry. So again, loving what I do and helping people. I think that's why I do it all. I'll read loads and loads, just trying to improve myself. And at the end of the day, it's just to help people get to where they want to be. Like
yeah,
from a performance aspect or from a rehabilitation aspect or an injury aspect. And yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah. Just
yeah.
helping people purely.
Class. Yeah, no. People that aren't there don't really understand, do they? Like your sister probably like thinks you're a wing nut, like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
probably.
It's
Yeah, she does.
like
100%.
it's like but no, it's brilliant. And then the last one then is what do you feel it takes to live a powered up life? So in terms of what are the main non-negotiables and habits and behaviors you feel someone needs to like live basically a high performance, high
Yeah.
standard life?
Yeah. I think that I was thinking about this question when you asked me, and I think that first of all on this topic, people need to buy the book called The Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Have you read
Recommend
it
it.
yourself?
Yeah. Recommend
Yeah,
it to
it's
everyone.
unbelievable book. Unbelievable book. Really has helped me and helped a lot of stuff which I try and do recently. I think that in terms of building like a high performance lifestyle or trying to anyway, I think that time utilization is key. I think that you need to get off like looking at social media and being so obsessed with what other people are doing. Just get on with your own thing. Like just do
Massively, that's a
you
big
and
thing.
just do you and don't focus on anyone else. And listen, at the end of the day, whether you do an Instagram page or a podcast, or there's going to be some people that just aren't having you and some people will. And that's just the case of it. Like,
Yeah.
I also think that if you're trying to be a certain person, you need to have certain characteristics. So for example, me, like to say I wanted to be the world's best coach. So what does a coach need to have? They need to have good knowledge of training. So they need to train themselves. They need to live kind of the lifestyle they're trying to preach to their people. So for example, for me,
Walking the walk, like.
exactly. So non-negotiables for me, I walk every day. I'll read at least an hour every day on something to help my knowledge. I'll train every day and I'll take my supplements every day. So that's like 4 non-negotiables for me.
Yeah, and that's just
Because I
leadership,
want,
like you showing leadership qualities as
yeah,
well to the people you're working with.
exactly. I think that like again, like, so I'm a coach and like I want to be able to teach this and preach this, and so I'll lift, I'll sprint, I'll have a hybrid of everything in my program. Do you know what I mean? And then in terms of being knowledgeable, like, so instead of just reading the book, like I used to be terrible at reading,
Yeah,
and it wasn't like
same.
I need to read a book. I wasn't like I needed to read, like I was like, right, I want to read a book, but I wanted to like become a reader.
Yeah,
So I'll read like at least an hour every day now.
yeah,
Just any books, like between strength books and training books and everything, to be honest with you. So I think that's kind of the key kind of advice I would give on that.
Yeah, you learn so much from books actually, because that's something I sort of regret growing up. Is like I used to be like, first of all, I struggled to read, and then I absolutely hated it. I just found it so boring. I was like, I could be doing something better in my time now. But now I see that, like, whenever you get older and stuff, you're like, that's where the knowledge comes from. You know what I mean? That's how you improve things.
Like, well, like the thing is, most of the stuff I talk about, like, it's literally been in the research, it's been in stuff for the last 30, 40 years. Like, it's not new. Like, yeah, I wish, same as yourself, like, I wish when I was like 14, 15, 16, I would have picked up a strength and conditioning book.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like,
you know what I mean?
even podcasts now, and that's what I said in the introduction to this, like, about why I started and stuff, was because podcasts were like a godsend to me. Like, because I struggle to read, and that's because I never did it. But whenever podcasts come, I was like being able to feed me with the information that I needed, you know what I mean, without having to read. But I've also picked up reading as well, because there's just so much value in it, and it's quite good for the mind or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's good. You're away from your phone and all, like, and I'm reading that All Blacks book at the minute, actually, Legacy. I don't know if you've read it or not.
No, I haven't actually. No.
Definitely read it. It's really interesting about the different, like, qualities, characters, like leadership abilities and stuff within that All Blacks teams, like, and it's unbelievable. It's definitely something you'll be able to bring across, actually, so I definitely recommend reading it if you get a chance.
Yeah, no, well, man, I'll get into it. Yeah,
if you ever get through all those strength and conditioning
books. Tell me, it's like 20 of them in my room, literally.
Yeah, and then just finishing off, I know you've mentioned it a wee bit, but where can people find you, just on different platforms and stuff?
So, to be fair, I can only mainly use one or two platforms. Twitter, on Twitter is Ryan Dev 10, and the main one to find me is probably Instagram, @performance_.
Yeah.
And that's probably the main. Listen, you can find me on Facebook with Ryan, but I don't really put much stuff up on Facebook at all. So the main one would probably be Instagram at @performance.
Yeah, do you get into any arguments on Twitter with those sort of American coaches and stuff?
No? I stay away. I stay away from all that. I stay away from all that.
Happy days. Yeah, no, sure. Make sure to check Ryan out. I've obviously been on his pages and stuff, and he shares massive value, more value than anyone else really does. And it's actually stuff that you can implement in action right away as well, and visuals as well. So yeah, that's it was a pleasure having you on the show, obviously, to share that story. I think it's a class story, like, just showing, like, resilience and patience and all, and just a pure passion to, like, go somewhere with what you're passionate about. So hopefully someday we will see you leading the line for a Premier League club, and, like, having a wee group, maybe even a Premier League winners medal. Do you get them? Yeah, mate. Staff would get them, wouldn't they?
There you go, mate. Yeah, you're right.
Happy days. So hopefully we'll see you there. But no, thanks everyone for listening. Just make sure to share on your stories, give us any reviews, and all feedback's obviously appreciated. And the more feedback I can get, the better these are going to be. But no, for now, I'm out.